Good day. This is the 10th of June 2023, and right now I am at Partizanski Platz. And this is the Belarus Mall. And in line with what I did yesterday, I went to the Hatay massacre, the village, and the main reason for the massacre was the partisans. The Germans, of course, I believe they ordered the Banderites, the Ukrainian Banderites, to massacre this village because apparently 2 German soldiers were either killed or harassed or whatever by partisans. And of course it was a major fight against partisans. Belarus is famous for partisans. And so that was the main reason. And this place is named after the partisans, of course. But instead we should talk about some news today. Yesterday I wanted to get to news, but I couldn't. I was too distracted, of course, in doing I guess a travel video. So let's talk about some news. I'll go to another place. Yes, there's so much news to cover that I don't even know where to start. What's going on in Serbia or Kosovo right now? You probably already heard about that. I was actually going to report on this stuff maybe on Tuesday it was, and now we have Saturday. But a few other things have happened since that time, so I can add that in. And it's, you know, now the European Union is sending troops to Kosovo. And it's to the areas where they're mainly Serbian. And you know, they had a vote there, you know, for the leadership of some of the areas within Kosovo. And it only had like at most 3.5% voter turnout, because a lot of the people, most of the people there, of course, are Serbian, and they boycotted the elections. And since you hear that it was only 3.5% turnout, you can realize how much of those people are Serbians, and they don't want to be ruled, of course, by Albanians. And you know, because of all this trouble that NATO stirred up during the Clinton years, of course. And of course, this is nothing but more than just a takeover. This is trying to limit Russian influence, of course. This entire thing is a war against Russia. And as you notice, and I'll probably be talking about that a lot more, I'll talk a little bit more about that later, this is a takeover of certain ideologies. And I don't know what sort of ideology you call it, but it's a combination of neo-nasties and neocons and neo-libs, and then they throw a lot of other things into the mix, like the wokeness and who knows what, all a bunch of crazy stuff. So, but anyway, it's just to seek control and domination, and it's all about money as well. You can put all these combination of things together, and all of you that watch this, of course, know that. And you know, we're all on the front lines, so you know, that's about all that was about as far as things going on in Serbia. That's really all you need to know. And then after you know that, you know, you can guess at all the things that's happening after that. And yeah, of course they want to get rid of the leader, Vucic there. And they're trying an overthrow of everything. Everything that has any sympathies towards Russia is supposed to be overthrown. You know, that's the whole idea of everything right now. Yes. And also, I was going to report this when it was first coming out, at least when the inklings were coming out, that the United States is now trying to send, over $2 billion more worth of weapons to Ukraine. And this is right after these defeats by Ukraine, or of Ukraine, not by, but, you know, of their not counter-offensives or whatever. And Vladimir Putin has come out and, of course, said, yes, of course, this was the counteroffensive. This was the launch of the counteroffensive, and they're continuing to do so right now. And so, but it was rumored they had like 30,000 troops in the western part of Ukraine, and it's also been put out that they've used some of these troops. This has just come out in the last day or so. I was going to say they still had 30,000, so maybe it's not the counteroffensive, but apparently it is, because they've used some of these reserve troops. And these are troops that were trained in other countries, such as Great Britain mainly, you know, but of the United States as well. A lot of these people are being trained on the more sophisticated weapons, And obviously they're training pilots right now, which they have been doing for a year, to fly F-16s. And on one side you can say, well, this is just in case they're going to give them F-16s, but they wouldn't go through this training unless they weren't planning on that. But they're still a little bit Russophobic, scared about what Russia might do, so they're trying to escalate this very slowly. And of course they have intentions of escalating. And I was going to talk about this later, but of course this is all to bleed Russia white. Of course they're still outmatched. Ukraine is still outmatched, even with all of these troops here. It's the new security chief, what's his name, Danilov. He's the guy that is replacing Bodanov, or whatever his name was, the guy who probably was killed in the attack on the military intelligence headquarters by Russia. So obviously nobody's heard anything from him. They haven't even made any fake videos. Like, apparently there's a good chance that this last video of Zaluzhny might have been a deep fake. You know how these deep fakes work now. Very well could be. They didn't show his legs, but it was supposedly where he was injured as well. And then he was supposed to be in a coma, and then he's supposed to afterward have died. So, but who knows what's going on? But this new one, this Danilov, he's saying, "Oh, we haven't started the counteroffensive yet. The world will know it when we do." And let's talk a little bit also about this dam, this Kakova, this dam they had destroyed. And of course, Ukraine is still maintaining that Russia did it, and it doesn't really benefit Russia at all. Matter of fact, nothing, but it does benefit Ukraine. And there's a lot more that has just come out because of that. I'll just jump ahead because this was just coming out today at 5 o'clock in the morning. Ukraine has bombed supposedly several, the word I read was several flood evacuation centers, where the people were evacuated that are lost, their property is lost because of the flood. And they were living in these houses or something, this housing flood evacuation centers, and Ukraine has bombed them. And along with that, also, apparently they've bombed a children's summer camp. And that goes in line with what I was showing yesterday in my visit to Hatyn. I think in English maybe they put a K, Katyn or something, but Hatyn is how it's pronounced in Russian. They bombed a children's summer camp. This is too early to say what kind of casualties came about. And then from the flood, there's been at least one lady that was killed from the results of the flood. I don't know. But it's also still too early to tell. But, Russia was expecting that. The residents were expecting that because Ukraine has been threatening to bomb that dam for a long, long time. And they've even been running practice runs at bombing the dam. Oh, but Russia did it. But Russia did it. But anyway, you see what's going on now. Killing the innocent people that were, what's the word? Anyway, that lost their homes and they're temporary housing. Killing those people, the Ukrainians doing that, or are they going to say that the Russians were doing that too? But it shows who actually did this bombing of this dam, so it leaves no question, just like the pipeline. We'll get into that too. Tucker Carlson, I'll talk about it now. Tucker Carlson, he's maybe he's falling for this thing about the pipeline being bombed by Ukraine and by those people that went on this boat, like the SS Minnow, as Alex Cristoforo talks about. So many people watching. I guess I gotta be waving to everybody here. But they stare. I don't care if somebody looks. I would look too. But I don't sit there staring at somebody. Incredible. But anyway. So anyway, it was like the SS Minnow was one woman and 4 or 5 guys. I don't know. But actually, the truth is coming out. The truth. They were actually going on a fishing boat. They were going on a fishing exposition. When they went out, they were. One of the guys. He came back with 2 halibut. And there's one of the other guys, he came back with a stingray. I didn't know they had them up there in the North They're in the Baltic Sea. But he came back with a stingray, and one guy came back with 2 halibut, and I think one guy got 3 marlins or something. It was incredible, you know. Another guy, I think he came back with 4 salmon, which is actually good. You know, he was fishing for salmon apparently like that. And the woman, all she came back with was a red snapper. So that's just to let you know what that was all about. Okay, and yes, but what was this also? Along with this 2 billion, and that the United States is supposedly sending, I think that's going to be coming very soon. I think it's just hi, здравствуйте. It's 2 million in 2 million in military spending on military weapons, and of course that's bigger. I don't think Zelensky has got his 10 days to 2 week allowance. Normally he gets, as we've all been noticing, I think they said it was so far they've got 39 installments of weapons, I think, just from the United States. But normally he gets anywhere from 300 million to 350 million about every 10 days. And I think it's been a little bit longer. I think it's been might be over 2 weeks. So that's, I guess, the main reason for this 2 billion. And a lot of people are saying that Lindsey Graham, and there's some indication, of course, Alex Christoforou was saying that he was visiting Ukraine to tell them to get on with the counteroffensive. And maybe they called them back and said, well, publicly we're not going to say we started with the counteroffensive, but it is our counteroffensive. And maybe that worked into the hands of Ukraine, because now they can say, well, see, we just don't have the weapons, and that's why our counteroffensive failed. And of course, right after the failure of the counteroffensive, that's when the United States said, well, we're going to give you another 2 billion worth of weapons, which is quite a bit more than 300 or 350 million every 2 weeks. So, and of course, there's the NATO meeting. It's going to be happening in July. And I guess Ukraine was hoping that they're going to come up with some great results from some of their offenses before that time. Zelensky was saying if he doesn't get more weapons, he's going to boycott the NATO summit, I think in Vilnius in July. And of course, now he's got his 2 billion. So he's going to be the big star again, and everybody's going to be rushing up to shake his hands and to touch him, to actually touch him. I've touched him. Oh, Elvis. Oh, but not Elvis, but you know how that is. The Elvis effect. And I think a lot of these countries, the other ones are quite disgusted by the guy. You saw the hand gestures from the leader of the leader of Luxembourg and Vucic and so many other leaders. They're pretty much disgusted by this guy coming around and begging. I tell you what, I would. Oh, give me some money for weapons.
And can you afford a couple billion for a house in your country?
He collects homes. Everybody knows that by now. Zelensky, he collects rich homes, exclusive residences everywhere around the world. So he's probably going to end up with far more luxury houses than Brad Pitt or anybody else. So, you know, or Arnold Schwarzenegger, he was also in real estate. But that's also coming with air defenses, this 2 billion, a lot of more air defenses. Some of them are rejuvenated, older, you know, modernized older systems that maybe have been worked. And then, of course, more Patriot systems, which, you know, I think the other ones have been destroyed. I think somebody said they still have one that works, but they're holding that in reserves, not even firing it, because Russia knows right away where they're at when they're fired. So I don't see what the point is to get even more of those sort of things. You need something mobile, you know, mobile air defense, you know, and then, I don't know, did they have anything like that? Tell me. But these things, a lot of the stuff is just being tested. A lot of the, as they say, it's a testing ground for modernized U.S. weapons. And in situations against their enemy par excellence, which the Russians, all of this stuff is probably to a large extent being developed to go against Russians, because, you know, going after goat herders and children playing soccer and wedding parties in Afghanistan. It didn't really test these weapons that much. That's all the United States has been bombing for all these past years. Defenseless people or Arabs, Arab goat herders, you know, with machine guns mounted on the back of pickup trucks or something like that. And also they say that ATACMS are now on the list. I think that is supposed to be you know, much better system. Of course, they keep escalating the what do they call it? The escalation escalator. No getting off. No getting off. No reverse gear, baby. And they didn't send the ATACMS before because it could start World War III. But now you see, very soon they're going to start getting F-16s and they're going to get ATACMS. But they've been saying this all along. No tanks because it might start World War III. No HIMARS, but of course they have all that stuff now. Russia's been figuring out ways. It's actually very good. It's a testing ground for Russia too. Figure out how to beat these systems. You know, everything they send up there. But anyway, I forgot to mention, talking about weapons, these flood evacuation centers. These were bombed by the British. What is it called? This. What are these? What are these weapons? I wrote it down here. Let me see. It is called. I don't even know what it's called. I have so much notes I can't find anything anymore. Anyway, these new fantastic weapons from Great Britain or something. They're the ones that bomb these shelters. Great, huh? And Biden was stating that this NATO meeting is going to be, a lot of this is going to be planning for how are they going to rebuild and support Ukraine after this war. So they're already counting that they're going to win this war. It's supposed to be focused on long-term support for Ukraine. Of course, that includes weapons. So in other words, they're trying, I don't know. So if the war is ending, why do they still need to carry on a war when the war is over? So as you know, they're going to still continue to go after Russia. But the war isn't going to be over. That's just some words that they're saying. Maybe they're going to declare the war over, and yet they're still going to be, I don't know. You know how the United States is. And they're going to fight to the last Ukrainian, as Biden says. And he says that Putin believes that we're going to be tiring of supporting Ukraine. And, you know, so that's why they're going to keep supporting Ukraine. They're going to, you know the whole thing. A lot of people on one side of their mouth, one group, they're saying they're going to bleed Russia white, and I think that's still the tactic. You know, so they want to keep this war going, and that's, I'll get into that too, from the ambassador, what the Russian ambassador to the U.S. has said. But Putin, you see how Putin, he doesn't think that they're going to tire. Russia and Putin, as you know, he looks at what are the possibilities, what the West could do, what United States could do, and then of course he prepares for those possibilities. He doesn't say, oh, they're going to tire of the war. That's what the United States do. So they come up with some sort of a scenario, and we'll do this and we'll do that, and then Russia's going to do this and Russia's going to do that. But of course, how well has that worked for the West? You know, you're not going to tell what Russia's going to do. But now the United States and the UK, they're planning ways on trying to kick Russia out of the nuclear energy divisions, you know, so that nobody gets nuclear power plants made from the Russians or whatever. They're trying to dominate that. Good luck on that one, you know. Good luck. And maybe you're going to end up with a power plant like what happened in Fukushima. You know, and you get to bombing what's going to be going on when they're trying to bomb these Zaporozhye power plants. But anyway, they're just trying to get Russia out of the market. But the United States, it supplies, they say 23, so it's roughly 25% of the uranium the United States uses for their nuclear reactors. And they supply a lot of uranium for the rest of the world too. As you know, Russia's full of resources. And it makes you really wonder, well, what is, I don't know, where's the United States going to get their uranium? Or are they going to try to kick Russia out of the nuclear energy business, but yet continue to buy their uranium from Russia? You know, is that going to work that way? And Russia is much further ahead in building reactors than the rest of the world anyway, more than all the rest of the countries combined. You know, they're just recently putting one on in Turkey. They have one in Belarus. I think it was a couple of years ago. Iran, many countries, a lot of nuclear. And how many of the United States building? Maybe they did Fukushima. Maybe that's an example of what the U.S. does. That's their nuclear energy. That's a good. And Germany is cutting out their nuclear energy. What is it? Suicide. What did Paul Craig Roberts? He's talking about that they shot themselves in the head, and they continue to do so. They continue to do so. Germany. Deindustrialization is occurring on a grand scale, and they're still importing Russian energy. Still importing Russian energy, but covertly and at a higher price. And also, I had reported it one other time, but the whole idea, and one main reason for why Ukraine wants the Zaporozhye power plant, is the future energy for Germany is supposed to be coming from Zaporozhye. It's Europe's biggest nuclear energy plant. And I'm not sure if they had already been getting energy from Zaporozhye, but that was the whole plan, is for Germany, a lot of Germany to be powered by the Zaporozhye power plant. Nobody else is really talking about that. But you heard it here. You heard it here. But you'll never find out, because I don't think Russia's going to lose, and I don't think that that's going to fall into the hands of Ukraine. Instead, they're trying to bomb, and they're even talking about it. John Mark Dougan has exposed, and I think he's even put on the internet copies of the written documentation, if you read Russian, of course, of the plans to bomb the nuclear waste parts, where they're storing nuclear waste at the Zaporozhye plant. And they want to contaminate for at least a 10-kilometer area of nuclear radiation. And they're still planning on doing this. They're still planning on doing this. And that's why they're still bombing the nuclear power plant. Look at this. And they say that this could, they're waiting for certain wind directions as well. So when the wind is blowing in certain directions, so that would poison the Russian parts, that's when they're bombing it. And a lot of people are saying it will poison 30 kilometers, so that 30-kilometer distance around. So that's quite a bit. Albania, they're the ones, there's a lot of real criminal activity from a lot of people, just like from Ukraine. For some reason, the society in certain countries has bred a lot of criminality, and of course it's part of life in a lot of countries. And I can talk a little bit more about this today too, because that was a recent article on RT that they put out, that Ukraine is a petri dish for, I'll say it, neo-Nazis. And there's so many people that are going there from so many different countries because they can live out their dream of their ideology in those countries. They talked even about an American that went there. He tried to kill his wife. He tried to use explosives to kill his wife in the United States. And he might have gone to prison for that. He might, because at least there's a few Americans they were talking about. And there's this one guy. This guy, he sounded real dastardly. And they have videos of him beating and torturing and killing, people, civilians, as well as maybe Russian captives in Ukraine. And they have one video, is the worst one I've ever heard of. One of the worst possible things. When you hear about people finding the worst possible ways to kill people, very, very disgusting, and it makes you sick. I worked in a prison for like 3 years, and some of the people, and you hear about some of the things that they did, and this is right along the lines of that. They had a young girl. This guy, I can't remember his name. I keep wanting to say Craig or whatever, but I don't know if it was just two of them or whatever, but they had captured a young girl and they were drowning her, and his partner injected her with adrenaline so she would not pass out, so she would feel the full effects of dying when they were drowning her. They drowned her to death, so she would be awake the entire time with adrenaline. Very, very tired. These are the types of people that are fighting on the side of Ukraine. And it's not even, these people, they're not put in prison, and they're not even scolded in Ukraine. And some of them, when they go back home, like this guy in the case going to the US, a lot of them are from France. Believe it or not, a lot of these real dastardly people are coming from France. They're coming from all over. A lot from Norway, I was reading as well. You know, some even follow this Breivik. This Breivik, he's a guy that was doing mass murders. I'm not sure if he was the guy in Norway that was killing children. And again, just like what I was talking about when I was yesterday and I was in Hatay, you know, and all the children that they were killing. These Banderites. These are a lot of cowardly people that kill children and women. Real brave, you know. Shows you the sick minds of these people. But a lot of these people, you know, going there to kill children, so many, I don't know, it's just disgusting. And I remember even over the course of these last 9 years hearing about a lot of these ways that they were killing, you know, people in zones, anybody that is suspected on being on the side of Russian or the Russians, even if they're civilians, they're non-combatants. And the dastardly ways of crucifying and killing these people and making sure they stayed awake, kept waking them up so that they'd feel the full pain of that, and nasty. So just in the past days, there was a man in Egypt, and there's film footage about this on the internet. A Russian man swimming in Ukraine, in Egypt, and he was eaten by a shark, and people were filming this, and of course they celebrated this in Ukraine. A lot of people celebrated this in Ukraine, and this includes even American politicians. I can't remember the person's name, but it was some politician, and he was celebrating this as well. A non-combatant, just a Russian tourist, swimming and being eaten, and they couldn't save him in time. By the time the boat came, he was already, I don't know, eaten by a shark. So, well, I don't know. I'm hoping I got most of this sick stuff out of the way, but I don't know if there's any more of that in here. But makes you really wonder, like some of these politicians, you know, none of their children are over there dying. You know, they probably hope that none of their voters are over there. It's only the U.S. soldiers that are secretly deployed to Ukraine. It's probably up to 1,000, maybe 2,000 soldiers secretly deployed to Ukraine in various, doing various tasks. Some of them, of course, are just in administrative and working maybe satellite information and sending it out here and there. And some are, of course, maybe sitting with these Patriots and other advanced U.S. weapon systems, and a lot of them, they believe they're in safe places, and sure, a lot of them have already been bombed by the Russians, you know, American soldiers. Some of them, of course, are out on the front line. As you know, a lot of these attacks that were recently in Belgorod in Russia, one of them had a strong contingency, apparently, of Americans and Polish soldiers, and the lady that was captive, she said she didn't hear any Ukrainian. She heard only English and Polish. So again, she might not have been good enough in English. It might have been Polish people speaking English, believing. But of course, there are certainly Americans. There were American weapons, and Belgium is faking as if they're disturbed that Belgian weapons were used, and they said they will continue full support for Ukraine, even if they find out that Belgian weapons were being used to kill innocent people and make this advance and attack into the Russian territories. And of course, a lot of these attacks are just because they're losing on the battlefield. They have to somehow show something that appears to be successful. And of course, all this money going, it shows that these politicians in America even, they have no fiscal responsibility. They don't care about their people. They don't care about the Ukrainian people. You know, they'll fight till the last Ukrainian. They'll fight to the last Pole. As a matter of fact, they have a little bit less flavor to want to send Americans, because some of the Americans are responsible for voting for them, but they'll do that as well. They'll sacrifice American lives just as much, as long as they and their children and their friends are not dying there. It's not like we have a government of Rand Pauls and such people like his father or Ron Paul that is knows that the futility of this sort of a war. These politicians like Lindsey Graham and all that, they all get kickbacks from the military-industrial complex, as you know. So it's good for them, and that keeps them in power as well. So that's why they don't care. What's a few hundred American lives and a couple 100,000 Ukrainian lives? They're happy as hell to get rid of some of these northern Slavic peoples because they're so much like Russians, you know. But they're not going to tell them that. Belarusians are next, you know, at some point in time. I don't think there are Belarusian soldiers, of course, fighting on the side of Ukraine. I forgot the name of that brigade. It's a brigade, and how many in this? Maybe a platoon or two. For as long as it takes, whatever it takes, as much as it costs. But of course, the American taxpayer is paying for that. It's not the lives of the politicians and their kids, and it's not their money. Like I said, the politicians, they get the kickbacks. They get the kickbacks from the military-industrial complex. That's what's been going on for a long time. Eisenhower even told us about that in his farewell address. He didn't say it while he was president because he might have been taken out like John F. Kennedy. So he mentioned it afterwards, and that's the American taxpayers' money, and it's the lives of other undesirables, as you know, or only slightly desirable. You got Lindsey Graham and Victoria Nuland. You got the neolibs, the neocons, and the neo-nasties, and they're all bonded together. They've all teamed up. There's no reverse gear. The escalation escalator, and it's all continuing. That's what the 2 billion is showing you. Another 2 billion, billions and billions, and it's going to continue. Alexander Makuras, he's the one that came up with a lot of these phrases. I think the escalation escalator. He might have been the first one that also said there was no reverse gear. And all of you out there, you know, watching, you know what's going on. You know all this stuff. You know, why am I saying this? Maybe there's some new subscribers. Of course, a lot of them know too. Maybe there's a lot of people waking up, seeing how the world really works, you know. These politicians are all safe. Nothing's going to happen to them. It just helps their careers. It helps them more and more to support war and do all this nasty stuff of what's going on. Selfish people. It's another sickness, just like these people that are able to kill children and innocent people. I don't know. How are we going to divide up how many different types of people there are in the world? The sickos, all kinds of sicks and the semi-sicks or whatever. Yeah, but they're all out to rid the world of their greatest threat. Their greatest threat of domination is, of course, and I hate to say this, a lot of people might disagree, the Russian government. To get rid of the Russian government, the Russian people, you know. And the media is complicit. Of course, war makes good money, makes good reviews. And you know what else they're trying to go after? You know what a semi-group of getting rid of the Russian government, of course, is the Russian people, but Russian men in particular. Russian men. And I've been hearing a lot about that here. A lot of Russians are saying that all the best ones are the ones that go and they die. A lot of Russian men, since I've been here, Belarusian men, of course, that includes Belarusian men. A lot of these people here, they're like what they used to call the universal man under Leonardo da Vinci. You know, they can fix their cars. They can build their own houses. You know, some of these people are scientists. They're architects and doctors, and yet they can build their own house even though they're a doctor. They can fix their own cars, and then at the same time they'll go and defend their country. So, and that's much different than what you find out in a lot of other countries. You know, you see a lot of these people, intellectuals in America. Scientists. There's not that many of them that can build their own house and fix their own car. They have somebody else do it. And I've also noticed something about these men over here. They will defend innocent people. They will defend children. They will defend women. If they see a woman getting beat up, if they see an animal getting tortured or something by its owner, they'll step in. A lot of people in the West, say Germany, the United States, on the streets of New York, people will just walk right on by. But over here, a lot of people will step in. So that's a lot different than a lot of other societies. And I'm not saying all of them will, but there's a good percentage that will. So let's just to let you know what you know, how they were raised here in this culture. Genetically, they're no different, but men are still masculine. In America, a lot of other places, men are becoming feminine. A lot of people say they're putting elements in the food, the genetic modification, the GMO, things that they're putting in the food. GMO is illegal over here, by the way. They cannot put GMO chemicals and things into the food in the plants. So that's maybe why they don't have this problem with femininity of men in this country and in Russia. So yes, they're going after the leaders of those trying to push a multipolar world, like Lukashenko or Putin, or even Xi in China. They still want the unipolar world where the United States leads. The United States, and of course, the multi-billionaire governments, or multi-billionaire businessmen. You've got the Gates and all that. You're finding out. I find out more and more about what Bill Gates is invested into. You know, I even forgot at this moment, but you can all find out. So he's one of the ones. And guess what he was supporting before he was in Microsoft? Just like Klaus Schwab. We will put the computer chips in your brains. We will reduce the world's population. And we will control what you think, and you will be penalized for having the wrong thoughts. We will have computer chips in everybody. We have the technology to be doing that right now. So, World Economic Forum stuff, people. Maybe I shouldn't say that. I'll probably get the algorithms against me. I'm already maybe going too deep here. Yeah, but they call the multipolar world peoples where the leaders are striving to allow governments to make their own decisions within countries. And they call those the evil dictators, but no, the ones that are for freedom and democracy are the ones that want to control the governments, the ones trying to overthrow and gain control. Orwellian, that's all I have to say. Yes. The super business, multi-billion-dollar bankers. I guess Klaus Schwab is a big banker too. You know, you got the big banking cartels, government. Do you ever remember what the definition of fascism is? It's the, I keep saying this in a lot of videos, it's the marriage of corporate money to government power. And that's what we're seeing right now. So this is real fascism, what's going on in the world. And this is apparently this is a move to try to create global fascism. Very frightening stuff, people. And we all need to support even the other vloggers, everybody that is trying to expose this stuff. And sometime YouTube is probably going to be cutting us all out. Try to get as many people maybe to know about this as much as possible. Maybe put this on Facebook. This video, it's going to probably be too long. And maybe send it to your friends. Talk about a lot of this stuff. You will own nothing and be happy. You know, and they make you think that you're going to sit at home and drones are going to be delivering your every need. Well, guess what, people? That's going to be for very few people. That's going to be for them. And the rest of us are going to be working our asses off for next to nothing. And we're probably going to be having little spaces, maybe living 10 people in an apartment, who knows what. We're not going to be having much of anything. Well, we might have stuff delivered to us in the very few minutes that we're going to be able to be sitting, that we're going to have to ourselves, maybe just to sleep while we're at home. Yeah. And somebody has to grow the food, you know. So guess what? That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be growing the food. We're going to be making all the goodies that are delivered by drones, and cleaning the streets, and so the rich people, and cleaning their offices, and cutting their toenails, things like that. So you got the Soros, and you got Newland, you got Biden, Zelensky, also a big multi-billionaire now. Zelensky, I've heard he's worth well over $2 billion. He's got more money, believe it or not, than Donald Trump. Zelensky is a richer man than Donald Trump, and that's a known fact. So even if you don't hear anything about that. So as they're trying to fight and kill to the last Ukrainian, I think they're very happy because they're able to kill a lot of Russians at the same time, and of course they'll get rid of the Ukrainians and then, yeah, reduce the world's population. The whole thing is to bleed Russia white, to get rid of the biggest enemy they have, and I'm hoping that they bit off a little bit more than they can chew. But it's not just Russia, it's you out there too. It's everybody watching this, anybody, you know, because Russia is on the side of humanity, but these other people are not. Neocons, neolibs, and neo-nasties, they're on the side of domination, their domination, and the rest of us that want to just live our lives free within our own jurisdictions, they want to stop that. They want to put the computer chips in your brain, control your thoughts, punish you for having bad thoughts. And anyway, that's all I want to say for now. But anyway, subscribe to this channel. I'm going to be talking more about this stuff. I'm going to be showing you much more of Russia, I mean Belarus, and be ready for my trip, hopefully on the 1st of July to the nuclear devastation area, the southern part of Belarus that nobody really has ever heard of. Okay, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you for the next one. Bye-bye.